I think Us is sort of a good for her movie.
Not to drop Tarantino here, but I think a lot of Tarantino movies are frankly good for her movies.
That's because he loves feet, and that's good for women. It's good. Foot fetishes are good for women.
I mean, say all you want about Tarantino as a person, like, the theme of the majority of his body of work is, like, what if people who have been deeply harmed were able to actually enact a revenge fantasy that was cathartic for them.
Yeah,
and
totally.
I understand that for some people that doesn't resonate, but, like, I don't know. I actually think that I think Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I think like the Sharon Tate arc of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is like the most beautiful homage to somebody whose entire life is now defined by her tragic death.
Yeah.
Like, I just think I think that is genuinely so moving that the entire time you're like, because you're expecting you're gonna watch this happen to Sharon Tate, and instead you just get to see, like, her living her life, going to the movies, hanging out with her friends. It's just so deeply humanizing of her, and I just think that is so thoughtful.
I've never thought about it. I've never been bothered by it. I really like that movie, and I've never been bothered by it, but I guess I've just never thought about it in, like, those exact terms before, and I think that's a really sort of beautiful way to put it.
Yeah, and I think there's really justifiable criticism of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I think the major criticisms people have are, like, the depiction of Bruce Lee, although I will say, like, my husband, who is an Asian man, he actually really thought that was a really interesting and kind of fun portrayal. I understand Bruce Lee's family did not feel that way, but I think things are complex, and I think it is okay if things are complex sometimes.
I think it's okay if things are complex sometimes.
Speaking of the complexities of Jennifer Lopez's acting career.
Oh my God. Hello and welcome to Informed Attraction, a podcast about early 2000s rom-coms that no one remembers. Hosted by one morally gray studio head and one lawyer who secretly loves to dance. I'm Mackenna Goodrich.
I'm Dr. Aubrey Hoffer.
Today we are continuing our journey, Aubrey, say it with me, into the Tucci-verse.
Tucci.
This is sort of, I think last time I said it was between the Tucci-verse, and I think we're sort of in between the Tucci-verse part 2. Because in between the Tucci-verse part 2, he is now, Aubrey, get ready for this. We get bald Tucci this episode.
Thank fucking God! Thank fucking God! That's my fucking man!
We're getting bald with glasses, finally.
Thank God. Thank God.
But this is before the, like, commercial explosion of his career. He's in, like, a lot of, like, studio rom-coms throughout this period, and one amazing Sam Mendes movie. But even this was Sam Mendes' second feature film after American Beauty, so it's not even, it's not the Marvel movie he's going to do later. And so this is sort of an in-between part 2, and then I think structurally going forward, we're gonna, like, try to do a mega-sode on the sort of commercial era of his career, and either end that with the sort of more recent arc of his career the past few years, or that might be a part 5. I don't know yet. That is going to come after I watch so many more Stanley Tucci movies. I've watched between the past 2 days, and we're recording this at 12 p.m., I have watched 5 movies. So I really locked in on my Valentine's Day and watched an insane amount of Tucci content.
Stanley Tucci was your Valentine.
He really was. And so was Ray Fine.
Sexy.
But yeah, so, like, this is, he's sort of he's more out of the indies here. He still does a few during this era, but he is also completely bald now. And he's doing, like, bigger stuff with bigger named directors. And, like, more, like, capital C celebrities, as it were. So, Aubrey, you'll have to tell me if you've seen... I know you have seen Robots.
I have seen Robots. I wish I rewatched Robots.
Well, if you want to rewatch Robots between episodes, you're more than welcome to, and we can talk about your feedback on Robots at the top of next episode.
Okay.
Because I wanted to end there because, like, obviously Robots was, like, a big kids movie. Lots of celebrity voice actors in it, but
I was attracted to so many of the robots in that movie.
Really?
I don't know why. I remember I was attracted to like the lead guy. I was attracted to his love interest. I think I was attracted to also like the Robin Williams character. I was just really
You do love a robot.
I have stayed being a robot fucker.
You are. Well, if you are interested in us doing a longer episode specifically on the Robots movie and the rules of attraction in that film, please send us an email at informedattraction@gmail.com, and we would be happy to do a Robots episode for you.
Or go revisit the series that I did about Data from Star Trek and why robot men in media are just autistic, and that's why they're so sexy.
So I know you've seen that one, and then you tried watching Made in Manhattan, but couldn't get through it, is my understanding?
Had to give it a 1/2 star on Letterboxd, because here's the deal. If I can't finish a movie, I don't rate it. If I try to watch it a second time, and I still can't finish it, then it gets a review of a 1/2 star. 2 movies have gotten that so far. They are Made in Manhattan and Pretty Woman.
No way!
To
be clear, I've never seen Pretty Woman. Or maybe I think I have, but a very long time. I think I was a teenager.
I hate Pretty Woman. I cannot finish it. I don't think it's interesting. I don't think that it is compelling. I find every character in it to be reprehensible. I don't understand how people think of it as a comfort movie. I'm like disgusted when I watch it. I hate it. I hate it. And I cannot finish it, and I refuse to.
I gave it 3.5 stars. I don't, like, again, I think I watched it when I was a teenager and then, like, just rated it when I first, like, made my Letterboxd account. So maybe if you want me to rewatch Pretty Woman and force Aubrey to finish it, send us an email, uninformedattraction@gmail.com.
My review is unwatchable? Why does anyone like this? And then to be clear, my review of Made in Manhattan is unwatchable.
I'm trying to see if I wrote a review of it. I don't think I did. Because I think I very much like, I think I logged it when I first made my Letterboxd account because I watched it when I was a teenager.
Yeah, I do not.
I know they go to the Kentucky Derby, right?
Never got that far.
Okay.
Never got that far if they did. And the weird thing is, I really do like Julia Roberts. My Best Friend's Wedding is probably...
You love that movie.
I love that movie. I need our dear friend Annie to watch that movie because that is a movie that I feel depicts the love I have for our friend Annie. And frankly, the love I have for you. I think, like, the thing with My Best Friend's Wedding is that it is a story about how your friends always have your back.
Aw, that's nice.
You know what, Mackenna? I would like you to watch My Best Friend's Wedding and just know that when you're watching it, that you're Julia Roberts and I'm her gay friend.
Okay. I don't think I'm Julia Roberts, but that's okay. Just in life, I don't think I'm Julia Roberts. We are going to have a movie this week that tries to convince you that Julia Roberts is, like, ugly, and that's really fun. We are talking about both Julia Roberts and Richard Gere today, so.
Yeah, and you know what? Two people where I'm like, you have the sauce. I hate Pretty Woman. I get so bored, too, and I just don't get it.
Well, let's talk about the Julia Roberts one first. So the first movie I watched for this episode was America's Sweethearts. The first thing I wrote, let me just read you my notes that I wrote, and then I will explain the plot. Actually, let me explain the plot first. So America's Sweethearts is a movie about this couple, Gwen Harrison and Eddie Thomas, that have gotten a divorce, but their whole career has been, like, making movies together. And there's another movie that's about to come out of theirs called Time Over Time, and the studio head hires this publicist to basically basically get them to both go to this press junket and, like, drum up press for this movie. The couple is played by Catherine Zeta-Jones and John Cusack. The publicist is played by Billy. I love
me some John Cusack.
And it wasn't supposed to be him, and I'll get into that later.
Oh.
The publicist was played by Billy Crystal. The studio head is our boy Stanley Tucci. Julia Roberts plays Catherine Zeta-Jones' sister/assistant. And then Christopher Walken is also in this movie in a crazy wig, playing the director of the movie. And then we also have Seth Green playing, I think, basically Billy Crystal's assistant, and Hank Azaria, who is playing Catherine Zeta-Jones's new boyfriend.
I did have to obligatory send you my favorite tweet of all time from John Cusack. John Cusack has honestly stayed having good politics his entire life, which I respect. Do you want to do a little bit of a dramatic reading of this? He's reacting to a tweet that basically says,
I can read the tweet he's reacting to, the part that you sent me that he's reacting to, and then you can read his response.
Yeah.
The original tweet, in part, because it gets cut off, is, so when are you rich American socialists going to pool your money together with America middle class and poor socialist? So when are you rich American socialists going to live together through co-housing with American middle class and poor socialist? And John Cusack says in response,
"You stupid, dumb cunt. You absolute fool. Dem socialism is FDR? The New Deal? Ever heard of it? You moronic ghoul. You mental oyster. You fucking stooge. We did band together for the GI Bill, the interstate highways, for workers' rights, clean water, social security, every right you have. You dumb fucking golem."
We gotta start calling more people mental oysters. You mental oyster goes crazy style.
I love him. And I'm sure John Cusack has not always had good takes. I'm sure he has done fucked up things in his life. But I do want to say, when it comes to being a liberal man on X.com in the year 2026, he's doing it. He's doing it.
I mean, he got pepper sprayed at a George Floyd protest, and he was an artist for Seafire Guy. And he is, like, anti-Zionist. Yeah. But then also people call him anti-Semitic because he tried to link Jeffrey Epstein and Anthony Blinken.
At some point, there's no reason we would talk about it. I love the movie 1408 that he is in. It is really, really fucking good. And I would love to have Mackenna watch it because I think it is incredible directing.
That's the one where he has the boombox?
No, it's a psychological horror where he is basically trapped in a hotel room and he, like, cannot leave. And it's essentially just him in the hotel room the entire movie.
What movie is it?
It's called 1408.
I literally thought you said Say Anything.
Crazy.
I think because I was reading Say Anything as you said the name of the movie, and I was like, what?
Yeah, and the director of that has not really done anything else that's been, like, all that impressive. But...
Oh, I remember the ads for 1408 from when, like, seeing the trailer on TV.
Yeah, it's a really fucking good movie. It's a Stephen King adaptation. And basically it's just like this writer goes to this hotel to, I think, like, write a story about a haunted hotel room. And then he cannot leave the room and is, like, trapped. And it is really cool.
Oh, it's written by the guys who do a lot of, like, biopic stuff. Like, it's the People versus O.J. Simpson American Crime Story guys. That's so funny.
You know what? And I did like American Crime
Story. Oh, I
did
too. I really liked American Crime Story. Basically, the plot of America's Sweethearts is Billy Crystal is basically trying to, like, drum up publicity. He's, like, working both sides to try to, like drum up publicity for this movie. I think he's, like, ostensibly trying to get them back together at the beginning, but mostly just, like, drum up publicity. And then basically what ends up happening is John Cusack's character falls in love with Julia Roberts' character, who's the sister. She used to be fat. There's a fat suit. Blah, 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 blah. Then you find out that Christopher Walken's character never actually made the time travel movie that they were supposed to be making because he thought the script was bad, and instead started, like, filming a documentary about the making of the movie, which, like, makes Catherine Zeta-Jones's character look really bad, like, makes her look like a dick because she is one. And that's sort of the movie. It was fine. It was a fine movie. I said, about Stanley Tucci, I said, America's Sweethearts is the least fuckable he's ever been, except for Conspiracy, which is the one where he plays the Nazi.
Yeah, fair.
And specifically the scene where he's the least fuckable he's ever been is in a scene where they have just, like, so John Cusack's character, like, had a mental breakdown when she first left him for Hank Azaria's character. And then basically they, like, goad him into, like, fighting Hank Azaria's character at a dinner. And like, Billy Crystal's character feels really bad about it. He's like, yeah, maybe I should get him to kill himself next. Just Stanley Tucci's character, like, a little bit too seriously was like, you should get him to kill himself at the film premiere. And then he goes, I'm joking, or thinking out loud. And I was like, ew, you're ugly, Stanley Tucci. Like, it was like one of the first times I was like, you're fucking ugly.
Stanley Tucci is always this side character in these rom-coms. When are we finally gonna get him front and center?
I don't probably think ever.
That's crazy. Stanley Tucci, no, here's the thing. I don't say never say never, McKenna. I think that I can see a Stanley Tucci rom-com for an older audience.
Yeah, sure.
I think he needs like another decade to cook, and then we will see a like grandma rom-com with Stanley Tucci.
Great.
No, here, I take it all back. Julie and Julia is a Stanley Tucci rom-com.
Right. Yeah.
I take it all back.
That's true. That is a Stanley Tucci rom-com. Anyway, so throughout this movie, I wanted to jump through the screen and strangle him to death. So the other thing I was going to say is that, so John Cusack's part in this movie was originally written for Robert Downey Jr. Aubrey, if I tell you that this movie came out in 2001, can you think about why Robert Downey Jr. might have not been in this movie?
He was deeply affected by 9/11.
No, this is when he got super arrested for doing a bunch of drugs.
Yeah. That's the thing, is that I feel like people don't remember that, like, Robert Downey Jr. was essentially, like, Charlie Sheen at, like, one point in his career, where people were like, this is just kind of, like, a drug abusing, like, fuck up who is never gonna really be in Hollywood again, and then turn that shit around.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm always sad. I feel like he doesn't talk enough about, like, his journey with sobriety and stuff. I feel like that could be, like, way more impactful to people. But also, it's like, he did all the shit with, like, being Iron Man, and everybody was like, wow, he's finally free from the MCU. Like, what are the really interesting acting projects he's gonna do? And then he does fucking Doolittle. And it's like, oh, okay. He just, like, really wants his fucking bag.
Yeah, but yeah, so he was supposed to be in it, and then he obviously wasn't. And then, also, Emma Roberts is, like, briefly in this movie as, like, an 11-year-old.
Yeah.
Because she's Julia Roberts' niece. And yes, there is a Julia Roberts fat suit during the like, documentary part, so.
Because
it's supposed to be that, like, well, because it's classic, like, he never noticed her.
And here's the thing.
But she's skinny now.
And that's the thing. That's why, like, people get eating disorders. Because they're like, oh, no man will notice me when I'm fat. But if I'm thin, then suddenly he sees me as a real person. And the thing is, fat queens, if he doesn't notice you when you're fat, then he's fucking loser.
I mean, that is the one very beautiful thing about the whole, we talked about this in the Fat Suit episode, like, the one very beautiful thing about the whole, like, alternate universe Fat Monica episode is that, like, Chandler still chooses her, and it's like, the Fat Monica thing is obviously bad, but, like, that is a very nice choice that they made, was not to be like, yes, and because she's Fat Monica, her and Chandler never end up together because she's fucking ugly and disgusting. That was sort of all to say about America's Sweethearts. We're gonna talk about 2 more rom-coms before this episode is over, because he was really in his bag during this early 2000s, pre Devil Wears Prada. So the next movie I watched was, oh my god, I think, did I like this movie better than I like The Day Trippers? I don't know. Hard for me to say. Sam Mendes has the fucking sauce, man. Road to Perdition. Aubrey, you know this about me. I don't like mob movies. I don't like organized crime movies. It's like a genre I really have a hard time engaging with. Road to Perdition is so good. I liked it so much. I would recommend watching it. Also, I reviewed all of these in my letterbox. Anyone can go read these at any point. So Road to Perdition is based on a DC Comics graphic novel of the same name. It was Sam Mendes' second movie after American Beauty, which, by the way, I don't think I realized that American Beauty was Sam Mendes' debut film.
Yeah, isn't that insane?
That is, I mean, what a fucking first movie to have made. I might have to eat my goddamn words about everything I've said about these Beatle biopics, because I am like, Sam Mendes does have the sauce.
Yeah, Sam Mendes has had the sauce.
Yeah. So anyway, Road to Perdition was his second movie. It's about this, like, Irish mob family in Rock Island, Illinois. Tom Hanks plays Michael Sullivan Sr., who was orphaned and then gets raised by Irish mob boss John Rooney. He is now his, like, best enforcer. Rooney also has a son named Connor, played by Daniel Craig, who sucks and is a piece of shit. And then at the beginning of the movie, Tom Hanks' character, Sullivan, who they call Sullivan throughout the movie, so differentiate from Michael Sullivan Jr., who's his son, and then he's another son named Peter. Basically what this movie is about is after a like intimidation job goes wrong and Connor Rooney shoots the person who they're just supposed to be intimidating. He gets yelled at by his father, John Rooney, played by Paul Newman in his last film role. And oh my God, Paul Newman is so good in this movie, and I fucking love Paul Newman.
Me too.
And so basically he like gets yelled at by his father in front of everyone, and then he basically sets up Sullivan to get killed. He like gives him a note, like, hey, my dad wants you to go give this to this club owner. He gives the club owner the note. The note says, kill Sullivan and all debts are repaid. While he's doing that, Connor goes and tries to kill Sullivan's entire family. He successfully kills Sullivan's wife and younger son, but Michael Sullivan Jr. is able to escape. And then it's like basically they're on the run from the family. The family hires a hitman played by Jude Law to kill both Michael Sullivan Sr. and Michael Sullivan Jr. They're on the road to perdition. They're going to like a family house in perdition to try to survive. So that's sort of like the general plot that you might be thinking, Mackenna, you have at no point said Stanley Tucci's name and all of that. So Stanley Tucci, basically the Irish mob is like in relationship with the mafia in Chicago, Illinois. And so who Stanley Tucci plays in this movie is real life mafia guy Frank Nitti.
This is, I think, the most shocking thing of this series is that I never really think of Stanley Tucci as like, that's an Italian guy. And it is like blowing my mind that so much of his career was being the kind of token Italian guy.
Right. And I think that was like, I know I mentioned this in the first episode, but he didn't take mafia and organized crime roles for a long time. I think it was about 10 years before this movie. And then when Sam Mendes brought this to him, he agreed to do it. But he hadn't done it since the 90s. And then he really wanted to do this movie with Sam Mendes. And so he said yes. But yeah, so he's playing a real person in this movie. And to be clear, so John Rooney is not a real person, but John Looney is a real person. And like Paul Newman is playing John Looney. They just call him John Rooney. But so Frank Nitti is a real person. It was his real name. And he was basically the bodyguard of Al Capone. And so he was like, he was in charge of all the money that was flowing through the operation. And he like becomes the acting boss of the Chicago outfit after Capone is arrested. And so, yeah. And so that's sort of who he plays in the movie. He is responsible for, there's a scene where Tom Hanks comes to, when they start being on the run, he comes to Nitti to be like, hey, like, if you help me kill Connor, I'll come work for you full time. And he's like, you shouldn't seek revenge. You should just let it go. But then you find out that Paul Newman and Connor were sitting in the other, Rooney and Connor were sitting in the other room the whole time. And he's like, see, you have to let me kill him. And Nitti is the one who hires Jude Law's character, McGuire, to do the hits. So Nitti like ostensibly is nice to Tom Hanks's face, but he is the one who's like behind the thing. And then towards the end of the movie, after Sullivan has successfully killed both Connor and Rooney, he comes back to him and is like, hey, I killed everybody, bitch. And he's like, great, I will call off the hit, but he doesn't call off the hit. So it's a beautiful movie. I really, really enjoyed it. Paul Newman is great. It's I believe it's the last movie that came out while he was alive. And he's still like fine as hell, even though he's like 80 years old. Jude Law plays a little freak in this movie. He is like a freaky guy in this movie. Stanley Tucci has a wig on in this movie and he looks so good. It's the most mafia guy he has ever looked. Like, he is serving mafia in this movie, and he's just like returning to like his early career roots in a really good way. Everyone in this movie is doing a good job. Love you, Paul Newman, Kenyon College King. Daniel Craig is doing a crazy American accent.
As he should.
He's not good at it. He's not. But he's doing a good acting job. Balding Jude Law. Loved the score. Thomas Newman ate this one up. Yummy, yummy Thomas Newman. He has never won an Oscar, and he's been nominated 15 times. And I think that's crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's Interpretation. It's really, Aubrey, like, it's really good. This movie, I was like, wow, I'm locked in. And I also think that mafia movies often overstay their welcome, and this one I think is just about 2 hours, and it like was the beginning drags a little bit, but once it starts going, it just goes, and it's really, I really, really liked it. Oh, the other thing to say is that we have a young Tyler Hoechlin in this movie. He plays Michael Sullivan Jr. He plays Tom Hanks' son.
Of Teen Wolf?
Of Teen Wolf, which I mention because the next movie we're going to talk about is Made in Manhattan, which stars a young Tyler Posey from Teen Wolf.
Interesting.
Yeah.
At some point, we should also talk about Teen Wolf, because there was such a cult of, like, fandom around specifically the first season of Teen Wolf. And then we really thought all the guys in Teen Wolf were going to go and be, like, the next generation of Hollywood A-list men.
Yeah. And Dylan O'Brien, like...
Dylan O'Brien, I'm going to say this, and I feel like it is controversial yet brave. In my opinion, Dylan O'Brien is, like, his generation's Leonardo DiCaprio.
I thought you were going to say something mean about Dylan O'Brien, and I was going to get really upset.
No. I truly believe that Dylan O'Brien has, like, the sauce, and I truly believe that when he gets older, I don't know, I keep waiting for when he is gonna finally, like, really break as being, like, the fucking superstar he is.
I know.
But I just love him.
Yeah. People really like the movie he was in last year. Twinless.
The, like, Love and Monsters one? Oh.
No, Twinless.
Okay.
Love and Monsters came out in 2020.
Hey.
No, people really liked Twinless that came out last year.
I heard that was really good.
Yeah. So, okay, so we can move into Made in Manhattan.
Horrible.
Aubrey, I have great news.
What?
Made in Manhattan is our first fully bald Stanley Tucci.
It's good for that, at least.
It's good for that. This is the first time where he came on screen and I went, that's the fucking Stanley Tucci I know, baby. I went, that's the guy from Devil Wears Prada. I like knew, like, I was like, oh, we're approaching the Tucci I grew up with at this point.
He does look sexy in this movie, but he still has a little bit of hair on the sides. He needs to fully... It's
totally shaved down. It's just like, it's like the follicle just hasn't, like, died yet. But it's totally shaved. It's completely smooth. It's totally shaved down. Yeah, because, like, even in Devil Wears Prada, he still has the, like, the shadow going on because it just, the follicle hasn't gone yet. But he's at this point completely shaving it down.
He looks good. Again, I hate this movie.
I know you do. I found it kind of delightful. But so Made in Manhattan is about Marissa Ventura, who is a single mother to Ty, who works at a fancy hotel in Manhattan. It's like on the east side of Manhattan. I think it's in like in the 50s. It's like Midtown Manhattan. And so she works at this fancy hotel. Natasha Richardson plays a socialite. She asks Jennifer Lopez's character, who she microaggresses by calling Maria instead of Marissa. She asks her to return this, like, Dolce & Gabbana stuff for her, and one of Marissa's friends convinces her to put it on. She puts it on at a moment where her son shows up with sexy Ray Fine, who's running for Senate. And so he mistakes her for being a rich woman because she's wearing a Dolce & Gabbana coat.
He is a Republican. He is a Republican.
Oh, I'm gonna get into that whole thing here in a second.
Because
they basically like love at first sight, but he thinks she's this rich socialite named Caroline. And then, like, as the movie goes on, like, basically he finds out that she's a maid, and he's like, I wouldn't have cared that you were a maid. And she's like, you would have cared that I was a maid. And then they go their separate ways for a while.
She's right.
And then it just so happens that, like, he's doing a press conference at the end of the movie at the new hotel that she's working at, and blah, 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 kiss, kiss, kiss on TV. Stanley Tucci plays his, like, campaign manager. I think that's probably what his actual title is. Like, he's like his campaign manager, his assistant, whatever. So that's who he plays, and he's sort of skeptical of... He's not, like, skeptical of Jennifer Lopez's character. He's not like, this woman isn't a rich woman. He's just like, you don't have time to be, like, falling in love with this mystery woman right now when we're trying to run for Senate. And yes, as Aubrey mentioned, this movie you can tell was made in 2002 because he is a Republican. It is
and the fucking son, for some reason, loves Richard Nixon.
Richard Nixon, and that is the funniest part of the movie, is that this little boy, played by Tyler Posey, loves Richard Nixon. And, like, sort of implies that Richard Nixon should be forgiven.
I just, like, hate... I don't, like... I'm glad that you're delighted by this. To me, I was like...
Clear. That part of the movie is unwatchable. The whole part where he's, like, giving his speech about Richard Nixon, the whole scene where him and Ralph Fiennes are talking about Richard Nixon is literally unwatchable.
My eye just started twitching.
Yeah.
Like, that activated my nervous system.
It's crazy. It's crazy. My two critiques of this movie are that, and that Jennifer Lopez cannot act.
No, she can't.
But I just think that everyone is, like, I love Natasha Richardson, and when she came on screen, I immediately burst into tears, because whenever I think about her dying, I get really, really upset.
Me too.
She's so delightful in this movie. Ralph Fiennes is, the theme of this episode is also British guys who cannot do American accents, and Ralph Fiennes is, like, hanging on by a thread, but he's so charming in this movie.
My other example of that is Orlando Bloom in Elizabethtown. He's probably my contender for worst American accent in a movie, maybe ever.
And Ralph Fiennes isn't, like, it's bad because it's inconsistent, but, like, it's like, you know, it's a fine accent. I was trying to find this review of Made in Manhattan on Letterboxd that I read last night that really made me laugh. Someone wrote, it's a 2-star review, to be clear, but it said, "I can't believe Ralph Fiennes made me attracted to a Republican. I feel so dirty." And then another review, and then this is a 4-star review. Who writes 10-year-old Latino boy obsessed with Richard Nixon as a character? Insane. Yeah, and another weird plot choice to make a Latino woman fall in love with a Republican. But yeah, I thought it was just like it is the Cinderella story. Like, it's a Cinderella story movie.
Yes.
So I said, wait, and then Tyler Posey was in this movie? Why the fuck was Stanley Tucci never on Teen Wolf? I'm pissed.
Stanley Tucci should have been somebody's dad in Teen Wolf.
That's what I'm saying. So,
oh my god, at some point we have to get into the whole, like, Omega-verse shit.
I don't know what that means.
Oh my god, it is a whole subsect of, like, I think it's, like, furry culture. Somebody might have to explain this to me, but it's, like, all of this lore that I see people reference.
like Alpha and Omega?
Yes, so it's, like, you're, like, a furry, and then it's like a furry, like, hierarchy thing, essentially.
Oh, that is not what I was thinking of the animated movie with wolves.
Oh. No. Somebody who actually knows what the Omega-verse right now has, like, a blood vessel bursting in their brain that's going to kill them.
It's Annie.
Yeah.
Omega-verse is a subgenre of speculative erotic fiction. The genre supposes the existence of a dominance hierarchy amongst human, as similar to that in popular MILF myth with wolves and other canids, that is composed of dominant alphas, neutral betas, and submissive omegas. In the Omegaverse, this hierarchy determines how people interact with one another in romantic, erotic, and sexual contexts. Mm-hmm. This just, oh my god, I saw a tweet, I did not see a tweet. I saw a skeet this week of someone talking about how, like, Nick Fuentes did this whole thing about, like, breeding gulags recently. Yeah. And someone skeeted, they were like, he needs to be writing fan fiction. He needs to be writing, like, male supremacy fan fiction and not be talking on my internet.
Yeah.
Anyway, Made in Manhattan, I love Natasha Richardson. I did genuinely I also watched this on Valentine's Day, where I was having a very hard time. Aww. So I did immediately burst into tears when she came on screen. I wrote this movie's Republican Apologia. Has an iconic Tucci line in it. So it's in the first scene when Ty and Chris, who Ralph Fiennes plays, are meeting, and they introduce themselves to each other, and then Ty looks at Stanley Tucci's character to introduce himself, and the way that he introduces himself is by going, "I'm bald and no one in particular."
I love that.
I was like, that's iconic. This movie was written by John Hughes under a pseudonym.
You're kidding.
I'm not kidding.
What?
Yeah, this movie was written by John Hughes under a pseudonym.
Really?
Well, the story is by John Hughes. It was written by Kevin Wade, but the story is by John Hughes under the pseudonym of Edmond Dantes.
So this, you can explain this to me, because I've always been curious when it's like, story by so-and-so, written by someone else. When somebody is like, the story by person, are they just like, I've got a concept, or are they actually doing any writing?
So basically, John Hughes was originally going to direct this movie, and Hilary Swank was going to star in it. And then basically it gets confirmed that Jennifer Lopez is now going to star in it and that Hughes is no longer directing it. But basically what it means is that like he did enough work on this, he developed the concept for it, that when the director Wayne Wang took over for it and Kevin Wade did the rewrites, enough of it was what Hughes originally came up with that he like gets a credit on it. But I think it's very telling that he didn't have it credited under his name and instead had it credited under his pseudonym, Edmond Dantes.
Yeah. John Hughes is such an interesting figure. I feel like there's so much like love and nostalgia for him, but people are now also starting to be like, hey, it was kind of weird how he was like obsessed with Molly Ringwald.
Yeah. Do you also know what Edmond Dantes is a reference to? That's the name of the main character in The Count of Monte Cristo.
Oh, that is like a piece of classic literature that I have just never really engaged with.
I read it in high school, I think. So
I read Lord of the Flies like 4 times in high school. Have I ever told you that? Not in high school, but throughout my K through 12 education, I was assigned to read Lord of the Flies at least 3 times, and I think 4.
Oh, weird. I only read it once. I read it in 8th grade.
Yeah, I read it in 6th grade, in 8th grade, and my freshman year of high school.
Huh. Weird.
I know. So you
were in the same school district for like all of that.
Yeah, I went to the same middle school, and just for some reason, my, like, different English teachers in 2 years of middle school were like, let's read Lord of the Flies, because they just really fucking liked it, I guess. And then
weird.
My freshman year high school teacher was like, yeah, I'm gonna read Lord of the Flies, but that was like, I was in kind of like the advanced English in middle school, and then they didn't really have that for freshmen at my high school, so I think that was, like, yeah. But yeah, so I was a fucking master of Lord of the Flies.
Yeah. Crazy.
Yeah. What was your favorite book you had to read for high school?
My favorite book I had to read
Or was like just assigned reading ever? But like K through 12, not in college.
What a great question.
Mine is probably Gatsby.
I think I love John Steinbeck, and I had been a big Steinbeck head even before I had to read it in high school. So I read East of Eden in junior high because I was precocious.
I never knew this about you. I love John Steinbeck, and East of Eden is my favorite of his novels.
Oh, I love East of Eden. It was my favorite book for a long time.
Yeah, it was mine too.
Aubrey, oh my god. Oh my god. Did we just become best friends?
We've known each other for this long, and I don't know how this has never come up. Yeah, I love John Steinbeck, and I love East of Eden. Like, makes me cry. It is like so beautiful.
It's a beautiful book.
Yeah.
And we read Of Mice and Men my sophomore year of high school, and I love Of Mice and Men. I think it's a gorgeous book.
Yeah, for me, it was probably Gatsby. I loved Gatsby and just thought it was really cool. And weirdly enough, I loved all of the stories from the Canterbury Tales that I read my senior year of high school.
Oh, I also love the Canterbury Tales. Oh, you would know this because we would have both read it because it would have been both of our senior year of high school where we went to the same high school. What is the book that you had to read? We had to read senior year that was like kind of controversial because there's like sex stuff in it and it's about like a dystopian future. Oh my god, what is that book called? Fuck me.
Oh, I don't know that I had to read that. Because there were, in my class, we all were able to kind of read different things. We had like a huge list and everyone was able to pick from it, basically.
Also, I love 1984. Brave New World. Brave New World is what I was thinking.
Oh, Brave New World! I love Brave New World! I did have to read that in high school.
Yes.
I would actually say I love Aldo Huxley too. That's one of my tattoos is a Huxley reference.
Which one?
It's the one that I have on my thigh. It's the door that leads to, like, whatever the tattoo artist wanted. And basically it's the quote from Aldo Huxley of, if the doors of perception were cleansed, everything would appear to man as it is, infinite. And so I asked this tattoo artist to make me a door into infinity.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I would say I also love 1984 and Brave New World just because that's a genre I really like.
Yeah.
You know. speculative dystopian fiction.
Oh, probably Animal Farm for me too.
See, I never had to read Animal Farm. I've never read Animal Farm.
Oh, you would enjoy Animal Farm. I had to read that one. I think my sophomore year of high school, I read Animal Farm. I never had to read 1984 for class. I read that one on my own.
We read it. I think maybe we read that one my freshman year of high school because that's when we didn't go to the same high school.
Yeah.
This moves us into a brief interlude in which I watched exactly 2 minutes of a Frasier episode. Which, Aubrey, we are now together going to watch 2 minutes of a Frasier episode.
Yeah.
We mentioned this last time, like on Frasier, they always have celebrities play the like callers. And so this was Stanley Tucci did it in the final season of the show. He did it on season 11, episode 12. So I basically only watched the beginning of this.
I'm in the bathroom, Celeste. A little privacy. See how she gets?
Well, perhaps what is needed here is
You think I don't know who you're talking to in there, huh, Maury? It's a little whore, isn't it? Hello, whore?
Celeste, if I could interrupt for just a
A
moment.
man? It's worse than I thought.
Celeste,
Hang up, Ma.
you're all on the radio. I'm listening down in the kitchen.
How about washing a dish or two while you're down there?
I cannot stand this yelling. I'm running away from home.
And that was Stanley Tucci on Frasier.
That was awesome. Do you know who any of the other actors were in
Oh,
that?
I sure do. Do you know who any of the other actors were based on their voices?
No, not that I'm confident naming.
So the wife was played by Penny Marshall, who you might know from Laverne and Shirley. She was a director. She was, I think, Rob Reiner's first wife. But yeah, she was primarily a film director, but was also an actress who is most known as an actor from Laverne and Shirley. Then Estelle Parsons is who plays the mother-in-law. You might know Estelle Parsons from Bonnie and Clyde or from Roseanne. She's the mother of Roseanne on Roseanne, and she's also on The Connors. And then the daughter, I was thinking you might have recognized the daughter's voice. If I told you it's a Disney girl, do you think you could get it?
A Disney girl from like my era of Disney girls?
Yeah.
God, I mean, she sounded sort of familiar. I'll say Miley Cyrus.
It's Hilary Duff.
Oh, close.
Yep. So it's Stanley Tucci, Penny Marshall, Estelle Parsons, and Hilary Duff in that sequence.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So it's unhinged for me to watch this an episode from season 11 because I've seen 4 episodes from the first season of Frasier, but I also only watched like the first 2 minutes of the episode because I had other shit I needed to watch and was like, great, I watched the part that Stanley Tucci is in. That's his voice. And I was like, I don't feel the need to watch the rest of this episode of a TV show in its 11th season that I have seen none of.
Yeah. I love when Stanley Tucci is funny. That was a concept I had for a podcast where I would watch the first and last episode of a TV show and then talk about it with someone who's a fan of that TV show.
Yes.
Guys, if you think that's an interesting concept, send us an email at informedattraction@gmail.com and maybe we'll do a little spin-off where I do that for an episode.
Or Patreon content one day. Patreon content.
Patreon content one day. Patreon.
Next film is The Terminal, which is we're like in another era of the Stanley Tucci extended universe. He said bye to all the lamos he was working with in the indie era, but this movie has him again with both Catherine Zeta-Jones and Tom Hanks.
That is what is really interesting as we're going through Stanley Tucci's kind of like filmography too, is I mean, do you think it could be the case at all that, like, some of these people who worked with him on other films were like, oh, like, Stanley's a great guy, and, like, that kind of word of mouth might have, like, led to him getting cast in some of these projects with the same people repeatedly?
I think that's part of it. I also think that, like, a really interesting thing that we're seeing here is sort of, like, tracking the career of someone who's been working as long as him, you're like seeing the eras of like who was just like a big working actor at the time.
Yeah.
Because, you know, we're in the early 2000s right now. So like, it's not shocking that we've seen 2 movies with Catherine Zeta-Jones in it. Because this is like around the time of Chicago when she was like the hot actress to have in your movie. Zoe Saldana is also in the terminal, and it's like a very early part of her career. And then I think like, you know, we're gonna get into this era where he does like 900 movies with Meryl Streep.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I think that the other really thing that we are kind of able to track throughout, specifically the past 2 episodes, and then we'll be in the next one. It's less true of the first episode because he was really doing like TV projects. But like we're able to really track like who was like the guys at the time, who were like the actors who were like working at the time, because he's just been on his grind for, you know, like basically throughout 5 decades, he's been like on this grind.
Yeah.
Yo, it's Mackenna from the future. I'm not smart and only realized after we finished recording this episode that I probably should talk about casting directors here also. So Deborah Zane was the casting director of both The Terminal and Road to Perdition. So it's not surprising that there's some overlap in the actors there because she's going to be thinking about actors who she knows and likes. And I'm sure if I went back through some of these other movies that have had some overlaps in them, we would find similar casting directors between them. So that's another thing to mention here is that like some of these overlaps has to do with who is in charge of casting the movie.
So Aubrey, have you seen this movie? Do you know anything about this movie?
So I know of this movie. I've never seen it. My understanding is that it's the movie where Tom Hanks plays like essentially like refugee from a non-real country, and for whatever reason he can't leave the airport. I think because he like where he's from doesn't really exist essentially anymore, and so he's in some legal limbo, and he lives at the terminal for like I think like decades, and I think it is supposedly somewhat based on a real story.
Yeah, so that's pretty close. It's not decades. It's the real guy did live in the Paris airport for decades, but I think it's only like a few months in this movie. But it is basically exactly what you said. So he plays a guy named Victor Navorsky, who is a traveler from Krakosia, who arrives at JFK Airport here in New York City, and there is a coup d'etat that happens in Krakosia while he is in the air, and the United States government no longer like recognizes Krakosia, so he doesn't have a country, but that means he can't enter the US or return to Krakosia, so he is stuck in the airport. And it's sort of just like about him being stuck in the airport. Like it's like the silly misadventures of him being stuck in the airport. And so it's this really interesting movie about like post 9/11 geopolitics, but told through this sort of like heartwarming story of this man stuck in the airport.
Do you know what like the real life story basically is?
It's pretty similar. So the real story was about a guy from Iran. And basically with him it was that like there was some dispute over whether he was actually expelled by the Shah from Iran or not. And so he had been granted refugee status in Belgium, which allegedly would have permitted him to like stay in a few other European countries. But then he was basically traveling back and forth between the UK and France. And while he was in France, his papers got lost. They were stolen. Something happened. And so he like didn't have a passport. And then in the French airport, he was unable to like prove his identity or prove that he was a refugee and prove that he was stateless. So he gets stuck in the French airport. So he is stuck in the airport from 1988 till 2006. And in 2006, he is hospitalized. I think he had a heart attack maybe. And then he lived in not the airport from 2006 to 2022. He lived in a Paris shelter for a long time. And then he moved back into the airport briefly before his death in 2022, where he died.
So essentially he was like stuck in the sense of like, obviously if he leaves, he's got nothing to...
If he leaves, he would have been arrested for illegally entering the country.
Okay. Yeah.
So he would have gone to prison had he left the airport. So
Yeah.
he's basically in this legal limbo where like he can't go back to Iran, he can't get on a plane, and he can't go anywhere because he doesn't, like, he is stateless. Doesn't exist. The way that they phrase it in the terminal is that he is unacceptable. And there's just like, he can't go back to Krakosia because they're not flying there. And they can't deport him. And they can't let him go into New York, so he's just sort of stuck in the airport in the movie.
Yeah. Which is, like, it's so interesting, right? Because it sounds like this movie is framed as, like, very kind of, like, these, like, misadventures. And, like, this is, like, a very, like, horrific story about, like, you know, the ways in which we treat people based on immigration status, like, and statehood, and just, like, kind of the horrors of modern bureaucracy.
Yes, and that was, so the main villain in this movie is Mr. Stanley Tucci.
No!
Who is U.S. Customs and Border Protection Acting Field Commissioner Frank Dixon. If you were like, CBP is bad now, today. I mean, they were bad then. There's not to be like, oh, the CBP was good in 2004. But CBP is the, you know, they're in charge of a lot of the stuff that's going on that, like, is getting attributed to ICE. Like, obviously, ICE is also doing bad things, but, like, CBP is doing a lot of the immigration enforcement that, like, is also what ICE is up to.
Yeah.
So, it's not good. It's bad. It is very bad. And it was really weird watching this movie in 2026, is what I will say. Because basically, like, so INS, which was sort of the precursor to ICE before they got reorganized, used to be under CBP. And now CBP is an agency of Homeland Security that combined all of these other, like, units. And I don't remember if ICE falls under CBP or if it's just another arm of DHS. But let me actually, I want to try to confirm this. I'm looking right now. Border Patrol does fall under CBP. I don't think ICE does. That's weird to me, though, that ICE doesn't. Sorry, now I'm, like, doing U.S. government bureaucracy research.
Well, yet another thing our government might be doing somewhat illegally.
Yeah, well, somewhat illegally, super illegally.
Well,
yeah, so ICE is also under DHS, but I don't think is, like, super related to CBP, besides that they basically do the same things. It's fucking stupid. It's all stupid. It's all made up. ICE has existed for less time than Aubrey and I have been alive. I was conscious before ICE existed, and it should be gone.
Yep.
Anyway, yes, I think what's really interesting about this movie is, yes, we are dealing with, like, the fucked up ways that people are treated. Like, they are not treated as people because they don't have a document that proves what country they're from, and thus we can trap people in an airport for years, months, whatever on end, and basically say, well, you don't exist because your country doesn't exist, because we're mad at your country, and we can just tell you fucking no. There's a really beautiful and harrowing scene in this movie where basically Stanley Tucci's character goes and gets Tom Hanks's character, Victor, and is like, if you help me translate with this guy from Russia, I'll let you go to New York. Like, I'll let you out, basically. He goes, and this guy is, like, holding a knife to his throat because he's, like, desperate to keep this medication. And Stanley Tucci's character is like, you need to explain to him that in order to bring this medication into the country, he needed to have a form. And the guy tells Tom Hanks that the medication is for his dying father. And at first, you know, Tom Hanks says that, and then when they're like, sorry, you can't have the medication, and they take the guy away to arrest him for illegally importing the medication into the country, Tom Hanks, because he's been reading all these immigration forms while he's been stuck in the airport, he goes, oh, sorry, I mistranslated. The word in Caucasian for father is really similar to the Russian word for goat. He was saying that the medication is for a goat, not for his father, because if the medication is for an animal, he doesn't need this form, which is fucking stupid.
Yeah.
So he basically lets the guy, like, doesn't go to jail, is able to keep the medication and take the stuff to his dying father because Stanley Tucci's character lies. And then because because Tom Hanks's character lies, and Stanley Tucci's character figures out that he is lying, and is like, okay, well, deal's off, and, like, now you're never gonna step foot in New York City ever. Like, you will never step foot in New York City. You will only ever go back to Caucasia. You will never be able to, like, go to New York.
So, how much depth would you say that The Terminal really gets into when it comes to some of these, like, themes around, like, the actual politics of it versus just being like, and this is just an aw shucks kind of story, and he's trying to get his way out of it.
I don't think it's not aw shucks is what I would say.
Okay.
It's really interesting because it is like, it's just about like, it's kind of like a survival story. It's not like gritty enough, I feel like, to like really, because it's a studio movie, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's not like that like gritty of a movie. I think this movie could have been a lot more like harrowing as it was. I thought it was kind of mid overall, but I do think there is something, I mean, the part where he is realizing that like his home is torn apart and like at war, but then there's also a really beautiful part where like Stanley Tucci's character like is like, I can offer you asylum if you say you're too scared to go home to Krakosia, and he's like, no, like Krakosia is home, like I'm not scared of Krakosia. He's like, I'm scared of sharks, I'm not scared of Krakosia. So it definitely like comes up. There's like a really fucked up thing where like Stanley Tucci's character tries to like trick him into leaving the airport so he can put him in federal prison. He is there's scenes where he's like calling prisons, trying like the only thing he knows how to do is like get this guy in trouble. Like there's no, and so there's this really like beautiful background thing happening that like Spielberg is doing extremely intentionally, of being like, the only recourse for this man is to never be able to go home by like being like, I'm scared to go home, go to jail or stay in this airport. And that like, and like this like Stanley Tucci's character has like no sympathy for him and like treats him like a problem the entire movie. Yeah. Like finds a way to like stop him from being fed at one point, and so then he like, but then like Diego Luna's character like, so there's like a really beautiful thing too about like labor, oh my God, and must class.
Be baby Diego Luna.
Yeah. There's like a really beautiful thing about like labor and class in here. Yeah, I mean Diego Luna has to be like 22 years old in this movie. So it's like, I just think it's too long and too sentimental. Yeah. But it is like, I don't know, it's really beautiful. And like, there's a really beautiful thing too, where like, so the whole reason Tom Hanks' character is there is his dad was a big jazz fan and has gotten autographs from all of these famous jazz players. And there's only one whom he wasn't able to get before he died. And so like, he is there to get a signature. He's there to get it from Benny Golson. And then he's going to go back to Krakosia. That's all he wants. And it's just really, I mean, it's a really beautiful movie. I just think it's too long and too clunky, and this is like the Catherine Zeta-Jones like love plot in the middle of it. I just was kind of bored with. Yeah. But it was also really interesting too, because like it's about like Catherine Zeta-Jones's character is canonically like 39 and not married, in love with like an older man who's kind of mean to her, and I don't know. It's a really interesting movie. I just think it's a little bit too clunky.
Does he go back to Krakosia in the end?
Yeah.
Aww.
He does. So just some other thoughts about it. Stanley Tucci's character is so bad. I hate him. He is actively trying to get Tom Hanks' character to break the law so he can have the airport police arrest him for illegally entering the country. But this is like, I would say even more so than Maine in Manhattan, this is sexy bald Tucci finally. We fucking got him, boys. He's got on like cunty little glasses here the whole time. He's about 44, which is a very hot age for men. Yeah. And I'm like, fuck you, you fucking cop. God damn it, are you not beautiful in this film? And so this part is where I started to get into like, what is the difference in, if we think about last episode being in between era part 1, and this being in between era part 2, where he's not really in his like commercial king era yet. Why is he hotter in this section of his career than in the previous section? And part of it I think is like an age thing, but I also was trying to do some research into this like notion that men who are fully bald are sometimes considered more attractive than men who are in the process of balding. And Aubrey, I'm sure that this came up in the research you did into it, so I'm happy to have you talk about that. But I also have some notes from just like Googling.
You can start. I'll fill in.
Great. So the first Reddit thread that I found about this, I'm going to send to you, and then I will have you read just the original post. But the title of this thread is "You guys look hot after going bald because you start caring again."
What is interesting, I will say too, about the r/bald community is that I've heard interesting discourse where some men are like, this is actually not a body positive kind of sub, because what would actually be body positive is if we just told men it was okay to have balding hair. And then some people were like, no, it is body positive because it is empowering for men to shave their heads, and it can be a really hard decision for people. And yeah, I don't know. It's really interesting. I don't know really where I stand. I think my stance is always just like, I support people's autonomy to do whatever they want with their bodies. Yeah. And if you're if you want to shave your head, shave your head. If you don't do what feels right for you, and don't try to project onto others what you think they should do.
Yes, this was a point I was going to make later. My note was also worth saying that you don't need to make decisions based on who people on Reddit find fuckable, and you should do whatever you want with your body.
Yeah, and I will
but
say,
I think it's an interesting thing because I do think that the sentiment of that like fully bald men are more attractive than men who are in the process of balding is very pervasive in our culture, in our Western American culture, and so I did want to look into that notion because it was not something that I've ever like investigated before.
Yeah. So like Mackenna said, this post is, you guys look hot after going bald because you start caring again. When guys decide that it's time to shave it all off, I notice many finally start caring more about the other hair they have. They start combing their eyebrows, trimming their facial hair, and tapering their sideburns. The ones who wear glasses often change up their frames to a color that fits their skin tone and a shape that fits their face if it was not previously the case. All these changes elevate a guy's look so much, it makes their appearance, including going bald, look intentional. That intentionality is what's hot. I think that really does resonate when I think about, like, Stanley Tucci and his appearance, because he does look really good in these movies. I think what I would say is that he looks so polished.
Yes.
Like, and it is, I guess, that intentionality, like, his fits are always really good, just always, like, pressed pants, the nice shirt, like, he's always so fashionable.
Yeah, and so the top comment on this post is like, me shaving my head was definitely part of me trying to get my shit together as a whole. I got sober, lost a ton of weight, and decided I wanted to start taking better care of myself. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, I do think that that's like part of it here is just like, being bald maybe seems more intentional than being balding, which like is not necessarily true, but that is like the perception. And oftentimes, like, I do think it coincides with this otherwise being like, okay, fuck it, we just need to embrace what's going on here now.
Yeah. And that's like, I think there are plenty of men who can be like balding and like look like confident and sexy and like can embody all the things that are attractive about like Stanley Tucci and other like hot bald men. So yeah, I don't know. I just wanted to be clear that we are not of the belief that like every man who is balding should shave their heads.
No. That is not our belief on, like, literally anything.
And I don't think Stanley Tucci is inherently sexier because he shaved his head. I think that it goes in line with this, like, just sort of, like, persona that starts to get developed, where I'm seeing, like, a little bit in, like, the Made in Manhattan. Like, he's playing very, like, men who are kind of, like, management. Like, he's playing, like, men who are, like, in some kind of official capacity, very, like, office adjacent, like, just a very, like, structured, polished man is starting to come through for his, like, new sort of persona.
And I think that's, like, what to me, like, even what you just said, like, in this, like, first half of the in-between era that we talked about last week, he's sort of, like, his parts he's playing are sort of all over the place. Mm-hmm. And I think it's because, like, he sort of, like, loses it. Like, as he's losing his hair, he sort of loses himself. And when we move into fuck it, we bald, it's like, he just, like, has a more clearer sense of self, sense of type of part he is interested in playing, and starts playing more similar roles to each other, and I think gains a lot of confidence. And like, that doesn't mean that's the path or like what's going to work for everyone, but it is like, it's what worked for him and what I think is expressed in a lot of the other sentiments here.
It reminds me of what we were talking about with India in the personal style episode of like, it's finding your personal style and like embodying that. And I think for actors especially, that's something that they sort of have to develop as they become, you know, working actors, trying to figure out sort of what parts they might be going for and like what parts are best suited for them, is like figuring out like, how will other people perceive me when I am on screen?
Yeah. So the other sort of like Reddit thing I wanted to talk through is there's this other thread where this girl basically was like, 2 bald men, you're fucking sexy. Just so you know, I actually find bald men hotter than I find men with hair. And then there was a comment on it. So I will send you this comment that was left on it, and then I will read and again, this is not a thing that I necessarily agree with. I just think it is relevant to read in the conversation we are having. So Aubrey, this is, if you would like to read that for me.
The problem, in my opinion, is not being bald, it's balding. The months or years of doubt and anger while you watch your hair degrade, not knowing what you should do to improve your situation, pills, graft, tattoo, buzz cut, shave, until you feel nothing but the deep burn of self-loathing when you think about your head. When you reach the bald stage and own it, self-esteem improves noticeably. I've just reached that stage at 33, but if I forget to shave clean for 2 days, I fall down to my previous state of mind.
And someone replied to that and said, yes, balding is unfortunate. Bald is a choice. I think that speaks again to the intentionality thing. But I think that also speaks to is I think people in general, across all things, have a really hard time when their body is changing. And it takes until it changes for them to like feel confident and good. And I think the process of losing your hair is such like a sense of being out of control. You can't control it. And that for a lot of people, the choice to shave it off is taking back that control and being like, I am in control of my appearance, not the other way around.
Well, I think that's an issue people have with their bodies, right?
Yes.
It's like they view their body as something that is sort of in a constant state of change, and they're looking for their body to reach a state that is like final. It's complete.
Right.
I've reached that point. And unfortunately, you just really can't get that way sustainably for your entire life, because even if you have the physique that you think is like ideal, right? Like it is impossible for you to maintain that exact physique for the duration of your life.
Totally. And so I think that that's part of it too, is like when we think about like why this perception of bald men is more attractive than balding men, I think it has more to do with just like the other like insecurities that come along with balding that you kind of are able to, for some people are able to like release themselves from when they're just like, fuck it. And I think there's totally also like people who embrace the balding stage and are like, I like how I look like this. And then like that confidence works for them and they're not viewing this like balding stage as like bad or evil or whatever. And so then that confidence shines through. I mean, it gets back into our whole like confidence conversation, but like
it's about the perception rather than anything to do with like the actual physical trait you're talking about.
Yeah, and I think it's just like, but because of like the weirdness around like being in the process of balding and feeling like it's a thing that you're out of control of, it often comes with like more insecurity, doubt, less of this like, you know, that person from the first started saying like it was part of like a bigger him deciding he needed to actually take care of himself, which I also think comes with like aging and just like, you know, when you think about like when people start losing their hair, like your 20s and 30s are like a tumultuous time in your life where you're like, everything sucks and I feel bad. And then if you're like then getting into a place where you're more settled in your life, like that might also coincide with the time that you're like, I don't want to fucking care about this shit anymore. Shave it off.
Right.
I also read this Men's Health /GQ article, which references, I didn't link it here. That's okay though. I just have the quote I wanted. That references a study done by the University of Pennsylvania that found so they had people rank bald men with full heads of hair, and balding men. And they found that while bald men were found more attractive than their haired counterparts, balding men ranked last. And so the article says, a key point of the study is that the rules only applied to those who are completely bald. The study found that men with male pattern baldness or spotty patches of hair on their head were actually perceived to be weaker, specifically weaker, than those who bit the bullet and went completely bald. And so I think that then you also get into this interesting matrix of like how much of male attractiveness is also conflated with like strength and virility. And I think that like bald appears culturally connotatively as like a stronger man than one who is balding. Because again, like the control thing, like, and so I think that it all sort of goes together.
Right. Also that idea of like a bald shaved head, I think has like kind of like a military connotation to it as well. So I think there's also that perception of like associating it with like sort of like a military tough like regimented lifestyle.
Totally.
Because you do have to like, if you are somebody who is not like completely bald, like you do have to like shave down your hair like fairly consistently.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That guy from that thread said that after 2 days of not shaving, he's like starting to crash out again.
Yeah.
So yeah, so like we said, like this is not to say that like anyone should make any choice based on like this general perception. But like this is just like a thing that I was thinking about as I was like, why I find Stanley Tucci more attractive in the early 2000s than I did throughout his career in the 90s, and I wanted to investigate that a little bit. Aubrey, anything else to say about this before we move into our last two movies for the day?
No.
Okay, great. I had to watch a second Jennifer Lopez rom-com.
Insanity.
I wrote, can't believe my king was in a second Jennifer Lopez rom-com. This one's in Chicago, though, so it's different. So, Shall We Dance? I was surprised you'd even heard of this movie. I'd never heard of it.
Yeah, I know that is it originally a Chinese movie?
It is originally a Japanese movie.
Okay. Yeah, so I know the original Japanese movie because it's very good. I've in different kind of movie communities that I'm in, people reference it as just being a very good movie. And then I know that there is a American remake with Jennifer Lopez, and that's why when you said that I was like, is it this one?
Yeah. So Shall We Dance is a 2004 romantic comedy film starring Richard Gere, Jennifer Lopez, and Susan Sarandon, and it is a remake of the 1996 Japanese film of the same name. I think the big criticism you see about the difference between the two movies is it's like part of what is interesting about the Japanese movie is that like doing Western ballroom dancing was like incredibly taboo in Japan at the time and like is treated with like great suspicion, and that like risk doesn't really like translate over. They get into like that it's considered gay in the US to be doing ballroom dancing, and that's like a big thing specifically with Stanley Tucci's character, and that like
which is not true because fun fact, so many male ballroom dancers are straight.
I think it's more just like it's the same thing with like figure skating where it's like, oh, you're gonna wear a sparkly shirt and go dancing, you fucking fairy. Like it's like that shit.
Yeah.
The other thing is that like I think that the other big criticism is that like the guy who's the main character of the Japanese film just seems more depressed than Richard Gere's character because he's like motivated to start dancing because he's fucking sad and dissatisfied with his life.
Yeah.
And people just get less of a sense of that with Richard Gere's character. It's Koji Yakusho in the Japanese version. But anyway, so this movie's about a guy who like on his train from Chicago, he's a lawyer, and from the train from Chicago to back to I think Skokie is where he lives. He every day is like passing this like dance studio where he sees this beautiful woman in the window who looks like really effing sad, and that's Jennifer Lopez. And so it's like very much not a movie about like a man who wants to cheat on his wife. It's a movie about like a man who gets infatuated with like a sad, beautiful woman and like finds ballroom dancing as like a way of like, I don't know, like just having something to make him happier. And that's like, there's a whole scene with him and Susan Sarandon where they talk about that. The problem is that I don't think the movie quite lands that he doesn't want to fuck Jennifer Lopez. I think the movie plays with that a little bit too much. So I'm like, it makes him seem like a little skeezy in a way that like I don't think he actually is.
It's the fucking Western thing of like, or not even Western. It's the fucking thing of like, can men and women just be friends? Can a man interact with a woman without wanting to have sex with her?
Yeah, and I think too that like him and Susan Sarandon have fantastic chemistry because also Susan Sarandon's a beautiful woman and a fantastic actor.
Yes,
and they have like incredible chemistry in this movie, and I wish they were in more scenes together because the last scene, oh my god, the last scene of the movie is the two of them dancing together in their kitchen, and he's like doing Latin dancing with her, which he like struggles with the whole movie, and then he puts a thing of pasta sauce up to both of their mouths, and they lick off the pot and then start kissing each other, and I was like, that's the hottest thing I've ever seen in my entire life, and I wish we got more of that in the movie. Mm-hmm. But anyway, so basically the movie's about this guy who like learns to love ballroom dancing because he's sad and starts ballroom dancing, and Stanley Tucci plays his friend from work who's like the sports guy at work, and then they run into each other at the dance studio, and Stanley Tucci like wears this horrific wig when he goes ballroom dancing, but he recognizes him even with the wig on, and he's like, I've loved ballroom dancing, I've been doing it since I was 8, but I don't want people to like make assumptions about me because of this thing that I love, so I like pretend to be a sports guy.
Who is more stigmatized in society, Italians or male ballroom dancers?
But like, okay, look up Stanley Tucci Shall We Dance and look at the clips and look at the pictures of him with these wigs on, because it's crazy how much better he looks without the wig on.
Oh my god, that wig is a hate crime.
It's crazy. It's a crazy freaking wig. His sort of arc is that he like learns to just like accept like he basically, like, the whole movie is trying to pair up with young girls and, like, find a partner, and they're all like, ew, you weird old man with your weird obvious wig and weird fake tan. And then he, like, finally, like, just, like, learns to embrace, like, being bald and loving ballroom dance. Oh my god, there's this incredibly cunt scene with him where he gets, like, after this competition that I'm gonna send you a clip of, he gets, actually, let me see if I can find that clip too. Let's watch the competition first, and I'll see if I can find the clip that I'm talking about where he, like, stunts on his coworkers. But it's him and Lisa Ann Walter who are dancing in this scene. So if you would watch that scene for me while I see, let me see if I can find the other one.
Okay. Oh, to Latin dance with sexy, sexy Stanley Tucci.
Aubrey, will you describe what happens in this scene?
Stanley Tucci is wearing a hideous wig, and then his dance partner is like, "There, gotta look at your hips, not your hair. Get that fucking thing off." And so he takes the wig off, and then he just slays the dance floor, and he looks so sexy. He's in this little black outfit with, like, a very open chest, and you see his chest hair, and it's, like, black with, like, little flame details on the sleeves and the legs.
And the thing that happens, like, right before this, that maybe not in the clip that I sent you, is they're doing the cha-cha first, and oh my god, there's this other couple who, like, had made fun of him earlier at, like, another, like, open dance night. And the guy, like, rips his fucking wig off his head. And so, yeah, that's why it's all fucked at the beginning of that clip. It's because the other guy, like, rips his wig off and, like, fucks it up. And then so, like, he's, like, really preoccupied at the end of their cha-cha thinking about his wig. And that's why she's like, take it off! Take it off! And then the other couple gets disqualified for being assholes.
Yes.
Okay, and then I think this should take you to the scene where his coworkers are making fun of him.
I will say, this clip, actually delightful. I thought this movie would be bad, although I noticed that the moment Jennifer Lopez spoke, my entire expression dropped.
Every part of this movie that involves Stanley Tucci or Lisa Ann Walter is so delightful.
So, my king, sexy, sexy Stanley Tucci, his coworkers do some real 80s movie style bullying. Yep. Where one of his coworkers is like, look at him in the magazine. Oh, he was a ballroom dancer. What a fucking fairy. Oh, the pants are so tight. It's like 5 coworkers, and they're all just, like, giggling about this. And then Richard Gere comes out and he's like, there is nothing wrong with ballroom dancing. Because fuck it, sure. And then Stanley Tucci comes out, holds out his hand to one of the women who is mocking him, and then he, like, pulls her into a little spin, and she's like, oh! And then is obviously aroused because it's Stanley Tucci. And then Stanley Tucci's just like, fuck you all. Football sucks. So he really did stunt on them hoes. I do think this movie, after watching that scene, I do think this movie is probably not very good. But I do want just the Stanley Tucci parts.
You should watch. It's on YouTube free with ads. I'll link it in the show notes. It's worth watching if you just skip all the parts where Jennifer Lopez is talking. Unfortunately, she is just quite beautiful dancing, beautiful gowns. The scene where she's, like, dancing and, like, falls in love with dance again. Beautiful dancer, beautiful gowns. God, just so cardboard as an actor.
As a dancer, what are some of your favorite dance movies?
What an interesting question.
I'm full of them today.
I famously hate Black Swan because the dancing is beautiful, but he gets everything about ballet wrong. Huge fan of Step Up 2 and Step Up to the Streets. I love the dancing in Suspiria, even though I don't love Suspiria. The Luca Guadagnino one, I love the dancing in Suspiria, though I don't love the actual of the movie, which is kind of crazy. Fucking love Magic Mike. Okay. Channing Tatum can dance, baby. We should be that's the thing with Step Up. Like, we should be letting Channing Tatum dance in every movie that he is in. My king can dance. And I also really like Footloose.
Okay.
I also feel great about, I like Burlesque too.
Okay.
That's what I would say. And we'll watch Burlesque because Mr. Tucci's in it.
Oh my god.
Yep. So my notes on this are, I can't believe my king was in a second Jennifer Lopez rom-com. Blonde Lisa Ann Walter is unreal. Stanley Tucci has the craziest wig I've ever seen in multiple scenes. And it just is like, yeah, bald Tucci really is the platonic ideal. It's interesting because they have him he has, like, more hair on the side. They, like, intentionally, I think, didn't have him shave it down in this one, which is really interesting. He does have on some very Dahmer aviator glasses on in this one. The glasses games have been up these past 2 movies. He's also playing a straight man who loves ballroom dancing, and there's a part of the movie where he's like, this whole thing would be easier if he was gay, which really tees up Devil Wears Prada. I think this movie also maybe got him cast in the Hunger Games based on that scene of him doing the Latin dancings.
Yes.
Also, the movie ends with part of the end of the movie is Richard Gere shows up in a tux with a single red rose to his wife Susan Sarandon's place of work. And if my coworker's husband showed up and it was Richard Gere in a tux, I would crash out.
Yeah. I would immediately kill myself.
I'll also mention that Bobby Cannavale is in this movie, and he comes in, and from the jump, you're like, okay. Because he comes in and he's like, I'm doing this to meet girls. I'm doing this to meet girls. I want to be, everyone knows that guys who can dance are good in bed. I'm doing this to meet girls. He's fucking gay.
I love it.
He's gay.
And it's funny because when Mackenna texted me that Bobby Cannavale is in this movie, I was like, he's always the guy you cast when you need a husband. Not in this
time he was when he needed a douchebag who is gay. But
I feel if I really did go through all of his roles, I think he is very frequently somebody's husband.
Somebody's husband. So that's Shall We Dance? The last movie I want to just like briefly talk about today is Robots. It's like weird to talk about robots in the context of like, is Stanley Tucci hot? Because it's just his voice. But
he has a sexy voice.
He does. He's a very sexy voice. This is like his first big like voice acting thing. But so the plot of Robots, if you have not seen Robots, I know we've mentioned it before in the series. Rodney Copperbottom, a young inventor from Rivet Town, idolizes Big Weld, founder of Big Weld Industries, which once helped poor robots with spare parts. After his helper robot Wonderbot causes damage, Rodney travels to Robot City seeking opportunity, but finds the company is controlled by greedy CEO Ratchet, who pushes costly upgrades and scraps outdated robots. Rodney befriends the Rusties and repairs outmoded robots, then learns that Ratchet plans to destroy them all. Inspired by his father, he rallies his friends and convinces a reclusive Big Weld to fight back. They defeat Ratchet and Madame Gasket, restore the company's mission, and Rodney becomes Big Weld's successor while helping his father achieve his musical dream.
Was this the movie that influenced my politics? It very well may have been.
Oh, I think probably. Stanley Tucci plays Herb Copperbottom, Rodney's father, and a dishwasher at Gunk's Greasy Spoon, which means we're also in like the Tucci dad era, which makes sense because he's in his 40s now. And I guess it's funny because I was like, oh, I guess him and Ewan McGregor are like 11 years apart in age, but it doesn't really matter because it's a voice acting movie. Robots, I remember, was one of the first like movies I remember that like almost the entire voice acting cast was celebrities. As we're moving really into that era where most voice acting is being done by celebrities and less so, especially in movies, more so by celebrities and less so by like people who are like voice actors. Yeah, so like I think that's those are the movies that I kind of wanted to talk about this week. Again, if you want us to talk more about robots, we will. Oh, I will say that Robots ends with so basically the whole thing is that Herb Stanley Tucci's character wants to be a musician, and he leads the townspeople in a rendition of "Get Up Off of That Thing," and that's the last scene in the movie.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
So it has taken me 3 episodes, but we will finally talk about Devil Wears Prada, The Lovely Bones, probably The Hunger Games next week, and generally focus more on the like commercial / Meryl Streep era of Stanley Tucci's career. And that might be it, or there might be one more considering how much we get through next week, because I do still need to watch his travel show.
Do you think that, I've heard his travel show is not very good.
I have too.
I tried to watch 1 episode of it, and yeah, it just didn't capture me.
Yeah.
Do you think with us, which of us is Stanley Tucci and which of us is Meryl Streep?
I think you're Stanley Tucci and I'm Meryl Streep.
I agree.
Yeah.
That feels right.
Yeah. That feels right. So by the end of this stretch, we've basically watched Tucci complete his metamorphosis. The hairline battle is over. We're using a wig sometimes. The guy who used to play seedy little striver bad boys are now authority figures, bureaucrats, husbands, dads, and men who have this like interesting like display of confidence while deeply actually being insecure. And the interesting thing is he doesn't really, it's not like a softening. He's not playing softer characters, but he's playing more settled characters. And he's like finding an archetype at this point. And so I wrote that like in every scene in early Tucci, he's like really like wants something. He's trying to get something. And now it's like he has it, but he's just, you know, comfortable. And so this is the bridge between like him just kind of being a character actor and becoming the cultural institution of Stanley Tucci, which is why I think next week we finally hit the point where the world collectively learns who he is, and he goes from being like, oh, you know, that guy from that thing, to the sex symbol we know and love today.
How crazy would it be if in our last episode of the series we got Stanley Tucci to come on?
Pretty crazy.
I say we just fucking throw our hat in the ring and we find a way to email someone on his team. I say we're gonna have multiple episodes out at that point. They will not respond, but you lose all the shots you don't take.
StanleyTucci@gmail.com. It is me, Aubrey, again.
We have to just email his agent. Hello, StanleyTucciAgent@gmail.com. Hello, it is me, Aubrey, again. Can you talk to Stanley for me?
Stanley, will you please come on this podcast that has, let me look at how many listens we have.
Do you think he goes by Stan?
No. Please come on this podcast that has 3.9 thousand listens. That's gonna be good.
Okay, but imagine how many we'll have after we have Stanley Tucci on.
I do think we would have a lot of views after we had Stanley Tucci on.
Mackenna, you lose all the shots you don't take. In 3 years from now, when we're talking with our good friend Stanley Tucci, we're gonna be laughing about how we did this series. I'm manifesting.
Yes.
Stanley Tucci on the pod before 2030.
Me, when I was anxious about asking, like, I'm anxious about asking my friends who are, like, slightly more famous on the internet than we are to be on the podcast, but I will email Stanley Tucci.
I will email Stanley Tucci's agent.
Okay, have fun.
All right. Bet. I'll do it.
What if you get us a cease and desist and I have to take this entire series down?
There is no way that Stanley Tucci would be like, hey, these two podcasters are doing a series about how you're attractive, and we're just talking about how much we love your work and think that you're great. And he's gonna respond to that and be like, get it fucking scrubbed off the internet. If Stanley Tucci...
Treat us like Mark Ruffalo's 9/11 conspiracy theories and get it off the internet.
We will never forget Mark Ruffalo's 9/11 conspiracy theories.
Have a question or a topic that you would like for us to discuss? Send us an email at informedattraction@gmail.com.